Hello everyone, my name's Claire, I'm from the Careers Service. Can I just give you a minute to familiarise, so you can familiarise yourself with the screen. There aren't two of us today, it's just me on my own. I'm presuming you're all aware of how to use Collaborate. Can you just, hi, I can see, hi Rebecca, hello. If you can't hear me, can you lift, raise your hand at the bottom. I'm not sure what I can do about it, but I think it just boils down to changing your settings. Hi, great. This is very exciting. I don't think I've ever had 15 come to a session before. Great, okay. It's 12 o'clock, so I'm going to start. As I've said, my name's Claire. What I'm going to do is actually stop the video, so you won't actually see me. It helps me concentrate a bit better, to be honest. I'm glad to see that there's a mix of people from different year groups, different courses, which is great. This is going to be a very general CV session, and if any of you want to have a one-on-one session with us, then by all means book in for a careers advisor appointment, and you can always send your CV to us via our Ask a Question facility, which I will show you our careers website at the very end. I do tend to talk quite quickly because there's a lot to get through, so I do apologise for that. So I'm going to now stop the recording. I did get my hair done, I hope you noticed, because there's so many of you here. I wouldn't bother if there's just two of you. I'm only joking. Right, here we go. So, a CV, what is a CV? This is the content, this is what I'm going to be discussing today. You know, I'm going to talk to you about the need, you know, why people need CVs, why employers want them. There are golden rules for CVs. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer in here. Every CV is different. Every CV that I come across, they will all be different. And I've never, ever actually seen a perfect CV. And the reason for this is that CVs are subjective. It's your document ultimately, and what I think a CV should look like, you know, what font it's in. I might like Calibri, for example. You might like Arial. It's up to you. However, golden rules need to be followed, and we'll talk through those. I'm going to talk through what to include on a CV, what not to include, and I'm going to actually show a couple of example CVs at the end for you to have a look at. And again, I will show our careers website as well, which I think you'll find quite useful. So let's move on. What is a CV? As you can see here, I've got, you know, it's a marketing document. Ultimately, it is you talking about your life, but in a very succinct, concise way. You've got to create, cringing compulsory. You've got to sell yourself on this document. You know, as stated in the introduction when you signed up, only 20% of CVs actually get the person to interview. So it's important that you sell yourself. You don't lie on it, but you must sell yourself in the most positive light as you possibly can. It is a portfolio of your skills and experience. I've highlighted relevant to each job you use it for. Absolutely crucial. You have got to target your CV to the individual employer or organisation, okay, the individual school. Otherwise, they're not going to be interested in it, are they? You have to target it and gear it, and we will talk about this more later. And it is ultimately a document to get you to the interview stage, isn't it? Right, so why do employers use CVs? They use them as a means for a shortlisting tool. They want to see that you match what they're looking for, their criteria. You'll often see for a job there'll be a person specification, and ultimately you need to show the employer that you've got what they want, really. So yeah, there's 10 seconds there. Employers will often make a decision very, very quickly, and I've seen it, you know, from 5 seconds ranging up to 20 seconds, but on average about 10 seconds really, before if it doesn't attract the reader. A bit like, I often say this when I chat to people, if you go to Waterstones and take a book off the shelf and it doesn't entice you, you'll put it back, won't you? So the first side is always the most important side of your CV. Your second side less important. So that first side has got to attract the reader's attention. Some larger companies actually scan for keywords. So if you see an advertisement or the person's spec, you can actually be quite clever about it. And if you decide to use a skills-based CV, you will use the wording, or even actually within the content of the CV, whether it's traditional or skills-based, use the keywords. And I'll show you a slide later to sort of emphasize that, really. By the way, and I should have said this in the beginning, if you've got any questions, please put them in the bubble. I won't have a chance to look at them while I'm talking now, but at the end I'll go through them. So please feel free to do that. Right, so CV, will my year 11 version do or not? Short answer, no, it won't. I'm not saying everyone will be in this bracket, really, but and there will be lots of people on the other end of the spectrum, perhaps, that have worked for many years, but have found this. I've seen 5-sided CVs that have been sent to me, quite long and difficult to manage, really. Essentially, going back to your year 9, year 10, year 11 days will not suffice, really. You need to keep it as up to date as you possibly can. And the most recent experiences while you've been at uni. I do appreciate first years, you could possibly go back to sixth form. No problem, but the older you are, final year students, I would expect you to have done something at uni or to have had some work experience. You don't really need to hark back to your year 11 days. Right, these are the golden rules. 2 pages maximum, absolutely. You can have a one-sided CV, but on the whole, 2 sides. It isn't an autobiography, it's just a summary of the relevant information that you want the employer to see. So not your whole life story. It's got to be brief and to the point, and again, I can't emphasize enough, relevant to the role. A font size, people argue about this. I tend to go in the middle, actually, and say font size 11 is perfectly acceptable for the bulk of your CV. I'd like you, and again I'll show you in the next slide, to embolden and perhaps make your name definitely at the top of your CV, highlight that and perhaps make that font size 14 or 16, and perhaps your headings maybe at 14, but the rest really, font size 11 would be absolutely fine. An easy to read font, I quite like Calibri, Arial, Tahoma. Times New Roman tend to be a little bit more old-fashioned, but Calibri you can actually squeeze in more. It's a smaller font, actually. Squeeze in more for your money, really. Yeah, consistency. This slide is just showing, you want your name to stand out, but you want consistency throughout, really, is what I'm trying to say here. Leave spaces between sections. Employers like to see lots of white space. Use bullet points to emphasize things. But essentially, as long as it's consistent throughout, the same font, but you can have different sizes. But if all your headings are size 12, then all your headings need to be size 12. Okay, not an 8 or a 9 or you shouldn't be using that anyway. But consistency, really. I want you to avoid long paragraphs of text, starting off with I am. You don't actually have to use the first person, really. You can be far more concise. Remember what I've said, an employer only has maybe 10 to 20 seconds to read a CV, and they won't read long paragraphs. They really won't. If you feel you have to write loads, then at least, which you shouldn't, but if you are going to, then use bullet points to split things up a bit. If you're going to use abbreviations, make sure that the reader will understand what they mean. So, for example, if you're applying for an accountancy technician role, then AAT would be fine. They would understand that. Don't use jargon, because not everyone does understand what you mean, really. I'm going to bypass this slide really. There aren't many mature students who've come today, but perhaps, you know, yes, there will be people who might have to account for gaps in their education, whether it's through illness or bringing up children. Hi Patricia, right, you are, okay. Well Patricia, we can chat at the end if you want, or if you'd like to have an individual, I'd want you all to book in, you know, either send your CV to us, might ask a question, or even book in for a one-on-one session. It is tricky. It is tricky for people that I actually only completed a CV for somebody who's in their 40s and wanted to be a teacher, and had, again, it was probably about a three and a half, four-sided CV. There is an knack to it in cutting things back, really. But again, I suppose it's what's most relevant, you know, what is most relevant. If you're applying for teaching, for example, they'd be interested in your teaching experience, more so than something that you did at the tax office, you know, 30 years ago. So we'll move on. Right. This is, I did sort of touch on this, you know, this is a pretend person specification for a job advert. And as you can see, being clever with your vocabulary and the words and the phrases that you use. And I did mention that some companies might use scanners, you know, to look for certain words. So, you know, it would be great if you could actually use words and phrases from the job advert, ideally from the person specification on your CV, as shown there. Again, emphasizing one size does not fit all, you know. It really is an individual document. Please, it goes without saying, spelling, punctuation, grammar, get someone to check it for you if you're not sure yourself. You know, it is important that actually should be a rule. You know, you have to make sure that all your spellings and grammar are correct. Now for the fun part. I call it the fun part, really. But and again, we need to get Joe Biden in there now, don't we? I'm going to now talk to you the next bit really about how you actually structure your CV in parts, and then I will show you a traditional CV and a skills-based CV. I'm not going to talk too much about skills-based CVs, but I will touch on them. So, what is the norm for a CV generally? Personal details, absolutely. Your name, your name should be emboldened across the top of your CV. You don't actually have to write the title CV anymore. You don't have to write titles, address, home, telephone number. You know, you don't actually have to use them as titles. And again, I will show you an example as to what I mean there. You know, LinkedIn profiles, really useful to add those if applicable. Try to get rid of all the numbers after your name, after you know, sometimes you'll see James Harrison 12560E. You can easily change the URL on the LinkedIn profile itself. Some of you may have websites, you know, any media people or teachers might have a website you want the employer to look at. So you might have a blog or an Instagram link that you want to put on there. That's absolutely fine. You do not need your date of birth, your national insurance number, your marital status, or a photo. Now, if you were applying for perhaps a teaching job in the Middle East, yes, your CV might be different and might require a photograph in the top right-hand corner. Some European CVs will require that. And some countries in the Middle East do want to know your marital status, you know, for residents, you know, if you're going to be getting accommodation over there. It does depend, but in this country, you don't need that sort of information, really. Right, so you've got your personal details section there. Profile, a personal profile, this can be a little bit contentious. I have seen so many profiles over the years that are too whiffly-waffly, you know. You need to, if you're going to use a personal profile, then please make sure it is concise, as the examples there show at the bottom. You know, tell the employer who you are. So as you can say here, you don't have to say, I am a recent history graduate, but just a recent history graduate, that's who you are. Telling them a bit about your work experience, perhaps. And again, as you can see here, worked in the retail sector, and again, perhaps a career aim and what it is that you actually what you want in the career. And there's another example here: computer science graduate with a first-class degree, a year's industry experience in back-end web development, seeking a role blah, blah, blah. So again, we don't want this, I'm a great team worker, you know, have leadership potential. It means nothing to an employer. And if anything, you know, if you're going to use, you want to put that sort of stuff in, you need to evidence it. And quite often, an accompanying cover letter that will go with the CV, which is just as important, the why them and why you element, then you could put some of that sort of information in there, as long as it's backed up, as I said. What I'm going to try and do now is to share my screen to show you a link to personal statements and whether they are in fact a waste of time. So give me 2 minutes and let's see how this goes. I've been on a Teams session this morning, so I'll probably get a bit confused on how to share the screen, so please bear with me. All right, share application and screen. I'm talking to myself. Here we go. So hopefully you can all see this. This is actually an article on target jobs, which is basically, you know, are personal statements a waste of time on a graduate CV? So if you want to take, you know, just look at target jobs and you will find that under the careers advice section. And it does highlight, you know, how to write a really good one if you wanted to. So I'm stopping to sharing now, and let's see if this works. So hopefully I'm feeling the fear, but doing it anyway. So I'm back with you all, hopefully. Can you all see the slides, right? Can somebody just put the hands up? Excellent. Oh, I did that well then. Rightio. Okay. So there's the profile section that we talked about. So thanks, Dorian. So again, think long and hard about whether you want to use one. Some law firms, for example, many law firms actually don't like personal profiles for the very reason, you know, that they can be a bit wiffly-waffly. Right, education section, very important. And as you can see, you know, emboldened there, I often say just leave off the and qualifications bit actually, but you know, you see a lot of CVs with that on. I like personally, again, this is personal preference, like the dates to the left-hand side. Some people, I was always told when I first started out as a careers advisor, that you can actually do this in a table format, table with 2 columns, and then you get rid of the borders. But it does sort of interfere a little bit with formatting. So, but sometimes it can be easier when it comes to tabbing across. But anyway, the dates I like on the left-hand side, this is another rule, reverse chronological order, meaning the most up-to-date first, okay? I would like you to put the institution's name and where it is. Not everyone will know where Edgehill University is. You don't need Ormskirk, we can just put Edgehill University, Lancashire. You don't need the full address. Your course title and your predicted grade. If it's a 2-2, which is sort of average really, don't bother with a 2-2, but if it's a 2-1 or a first, then put that on. You don't have to put a predicted grade, but you can do if you wanted to. Relevant modules. Not all modules might be relevant to the job in hand, so put down the relevant ones. And a dissertation title is often used as well. Do you still include it? Right. I will answer that at the end. I think that was Rebecca. I'll answer that at the end, Rebecca, and I'll go through the questions. Yes, you need to. 1996 is not that long ago, I suppose, really, but depending. If it's for teaching qualification, sorry, Rebecca does it. Yeah, join the club. I think with regards to teaching, for example, you will need to list your GCSEs. They need to know, or equivalent, they need to know that you've got your English, maths and your science, for example, because you can't teach in mainstream schools without those qualifications. But again, we'll chat a little bit about that at the end. Your college, your sixth form, location, again. And as you can see here, you can list it in one line, and sort of horizontally rather than vertically, okay? And again, if the college, if you stayed in the same school, you probably only have to list that once and not twice. But again, you know, GCSEs, I often see them listed and taking up 5 or 6 lines. You just need to say, your degree is far more important at this stage. And you just need to say, look, you've got your 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, A star to C, if it was A star, including maths, English, and I often put science in there because, you know, I think science is also equally important. So education section, very, very useful. Lazy camel. Okay, I'd forgotten I put that one in, but anyway, I think that's just for you to go and get a cup of tea, but we don't have time now, so. Right, employment section. Yes, absolutely. Now, again, I'm going to show the next slide, which will show you how you might split that employment section up, if you so wished. If, for example, you have lots of mixed employment history, but again, I keep picking on teachers, but interspersed within that, you're applying for a teaching role and your teaching work experience or your placements are interspersed within your education, your employment history, they're not going to stand out, are they? So one way you could make them stand out, and I'll go to the next slide now, is to actually split them into using appropriate headings. So, you know, again, teaching or legal employment, you would split that from your less relevant, okay? You could lump them all together, you know, your solicitors in there, but as you can see, it would look a lot clearer if you actually split your employment into relevant and less relevant, and you can actually put your more relevant on the first side if you so wished. But again, in reverse chronological order, the most up-to-date first. So I'll go back to that slide again. That was just to emphasize how you could split your employment history. Again, dates I quite like on the left-hand side. You need to give the name of the organization, where it was, and what your role was. And again, you know, there might be lots, especially if they're mature students, lots of stuff you need to want to put in. So space is going to be very important. So keep it all on one line. You know, have a look at the vocabulary that you're using as well. I am going to show you a slide now on action, the use of action verbs. So let's see that we do this again. Let me just stop sharing, and I'm going to show you. It's working quite well. So let me go here and then there, sharing. So I'm going to show you some what I call action verbs. Here we go. If you can all see that, using these sorts of words, and I'll show you examples in the CVs later, you know, using devised, prepared, all these types of action verbs make a CV sound so much better. Essentially, these two columns are saying exactly the same thing, but one is saying it in a lot more professional way by the use of these action verbs. Okay. Back we go. I always worry I'm going to lose you, but so far so good, I hope. You're all there? Can someone just put the hands up? Great, great. Oh, it's working well. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. So, again, using these action verbs will make it, thank you, Vikia, if that's how you pronounce your name. So, again, probably not a great examples there, but using action verbs can quite often make a CV look a lot more professional, really. If we move on to the next, I've talked about that one, but the next slide, yeah, optional sections. And again, remember I said, you know, CVs are highly subjective documents. You know, it's up to you how they look. Volunteering, you can put a volunteering section on there, absolutely. The same way as you would, you know, you sort of categorize it the same way as you would the employment section. Placements, you know, teaching placements, teaching experience should be separated definitely from the rest of your employment experience. Okay. Additional information. Actually, people always seem to think additional information is not that important, but in fact it is. Employers love to see that what you do in your spare time. You know, that they you know, they want to know that you make good use of your time, and they want to know what your personality is like. So, for example, this bit here: in my spare time, I like to keep fit. That basically, you know, and enjoy weekly exercise classes, playing hockey for my local team. I enjoy amateur dramatics. You know, this is showing your personality, and also, you know, it shows a well-rounded team player with good communication skills, time management skills. Showing, you know, the fact that they do things weekly shows personal qualities such as reliability and confidence. So don't ever underestimate, you know, what you do in your spare time, your hobbies, your interests. try and make sure that what you put on there is going to be relevant to the organisation. So, for example, you know, the fact you've got Duke of Edinburgh Gold shows resilience. You know, it could be that on the person spec that the employer wants someone that has, you know, can show resilience. Always difficult to do. You know, a linguist, you know, somebody who has conversational French, you know, shows that this person is a linguist. Social committees here showing that the employer that you've got good communication skills, and mobility. Quite often, you know, I in fact have got a question to do later on for somebody who can't get a job because they don't actually have a driving license. So you know, these are all you know, definitely put driving license down if you've got one. Try and avoid comments like you enjoy socializing with friends. Perhaps perhaps don't mention activities that don't actually fit in with the vacancy. Perhaps so reading, if they're, you know, if you read all the time, and there's nothing wrong with reading, but if they're expecting some, you know, someone perhaps with more sociable hobbies, to think about that. It is quite an important section. Right, references. Quite often people will list their 2 references. If you're going to then list them horizontally rather than vertically. References available on request is absolutely fine. You know, if you're short for space, absolutely you can put that down because they're going to ask them anyway. Generally speaking, there would be one academic referee, your personal tutor, and the other would probably be an employer, or, you know, if you've been volunteering, somebody that could actually root for you for your personality and your suitability for the role. And you know, if it was teaching, you might have a teaching mentor there. You must list, if you are going to list them, you've got to have their job titles, the organisations, you know, their address, their telephone number. Email is probably more important than the telephone number these days, but you know, email address definitely. They want to know what their relationship is to you, so don't just put the name down. You know, just, you know, say personal tutor or mentor in school. It is etiquette that you should ask the employer before you give them as a reference, so always ask them first. Right, final pointers. This is just something I threw in really. I often, if you ask a question, I often receive, or we do in the career service, receive CVs that are all formatted in different ways, and when they come over to us in Teams where we amend them, they're all skew-if. Not all of them, but quite a few are. So we end up having to copy them into Word and then copy them back. I'm not saying absolutely do not send them to us as a PDF file because we can't amend them. But just remember that the recipient, you want the recipient to receive the CV as you see it on your computer. So quite often doing it in a PDF format would be the best thing to do, really. And when you save it, put your name in there, you know, save it under your name, because the company, you know, if you know, they might keep it on file and they'll want to search for you perhaps at some stage in the future. Okay. Right, driving license I've said. You might want to put an up-to-date DBS on there. Don't worry about the last, that causes too much confusion, and I'll take that off really. But sometimes, you know, it's very, very rare that you might want to give the employer permission so they can keep it on file. It's very rare that would happen really. So I haven't really touched on the skills profile really for a CV. I'm going to talk you through a couple of CVs in a minute, but quite often a skills-based CV rather than a traditional CV would be the best thing for you. The reason you might want to do skills-based CV is if you are a career changer, for example, or if you don't have much experience in the sector that you're applying for. You want to show the employer, look, I might not have the relevant work experience that you want, but I still have the skills. I've still gained those skills, but in other ways. So I might not have lots of marketing experience, but in my job in the pub, I helped, you know, down the road, I helped to create a website for them, whatever it is. You still have the skills that they need. So you want to emphasize this on a skills-based CV rather than a traditional CV. Okay, and your skills will be probably on the first side of your CV, and your employment would probably be on the second side. And again, I'll show you, give you an illustration to show you that. Again, you must back your skills up with examples across your You can, you know, give 1, 2, 3 examples, for example, to illustrate your IT or your communication skills, and they can be across your work experience, across your degree, your time at uni, and across your hobbies and interests, okay? But you must provide evidence. You can't just say, and we often see this, people put a block of skills and they just list computing, communication, problem solving, but they don't actually back it up with anything. Anyone could say that. Anyone could say they're great at problem solving or great at teamwork. It means nothing. So you need to back them up, okay? Right, so here we go. Here's the traditional CV. And again, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. I can see a few things I don't like, but maybe you can spot a few things. But again, just to illustrate, your name up in lights there, address, phone numbers, Gmail, you know, email, LinkedIn profile there without all the numbers at the end, education and qualifications. And this, again, you know, university placements, Tracy's decided to list them here under her degree, but you can do them separately, and, you know, teaching placements can be totally separate. This is very much a teaching, geared to teaching, and so is the skills-based one that I'm going to show you in a minute, but after this. But as you can see, quite a lot of emphasis on the degree, showing where where you studied for your BA Hons, what predicted grades you've got, and final year project or dissertation is listed there as well. Here, as I said, the placements, teaching placements are illustrated. Volunteering, you know, Tracy was a Brownie leader and wants that sort of emphasised as well. Employment history, again, not necessarily. The holiday club, again, I possibly would put that under related teaching experience and split it from the bar assistant role there. I haven't put these CVs on here, somebody else has, but again, you can see, you know, each careers advisor would have a different impression of a CV. Additional information, you know, again, as I emphasised on the earlier slide, driving license on there, great, and references available on request. So that would be probably what we would call, you know, a traditional CV. Not a lot of emphasis on skills. Now this, the same person has decided, possibly, she hasn't put a personal profile in there. Now if it was me and I was changing career aim from teaching, you know, she's got teaching experience here. She doesn't want to emphasize that as much, but I would probably make it more clear to the reader, to the employer, what it is that you're aiming for, and would probably put a personal profile in there actually. But as you can see, the skills profile, Tracy is gearing this to the employer. They're wanting someone who's a team worker, good communicator, has leadership skills, and is flexible. And again, as you can see, bullet points in there, consistency with the text, emboldening, and also looking, you know, giving examples across the work experience and across academic and hobbies as well. Okay, so that would be what we would call more of a skills-based CV. Okay, and the first side being the one that catches the reader's attention most. Right, this I thought I'd throw this in. I was going to share my screen. Right, yes, Patricia, absolutely, absolutely. We use a different CV for each employer. As you can see, these are two CVs, different CVs. Tracy wants to emphasise the fact her work experience in teaching for this traditional CV, and for the skills-based CV, she's sort of thinking, I'm presuming she's going for a job again. It should be geared to the role that she's going for. I mean, it could be marketing manager, it could be, you know, any job that involves lots of teamwork and communication skills, quite a few really. But yes, absolutely, has got to be geared to the job in hand, absolutely. I'm not going to share my screen now, but we do have, there's a creative CV guide, which is Nottingham Trent. If anyone wants to have a look at it, in fact, no, I'm going to, and then this is where it all falls apart. I will share it, I will share my screen. Hang on one sec. There we go. So go on there, and go on here. Share application on screen. Here we go. So I'm going to show you now the Creative CV Guide that you can Google quite simply. It is really useful to look at different styles of CVs, and I'm not saying this is for everyone, but you know, people that might be in the sort of creative industry, let me get you on here, that might want to do, you know, graphic design, for example, something that stands out a little bit. When I used to work at the University of Liverpool years and years ago, I remember someone sending a CV that was in the shape of a Dyson vacuum cleaner because he wanted to apply to Dyson, which did stand out, and I don't know whether he actually got an interview, but, you know, media, you know, they are very different, aren't they, to the traditional style CV, and I'm not saying you should do that. Let me just stop sharing now and I'll get back to you all. Here we go. Share files. And let me go to the... I do talk to myself. First sign of madness, isn't it? Okay. Right, so yeah, I can't see the questions yet, but I will do in a minute. But yeah, that you know, a different type of creative CV would be applicable to some. Right, now my final slide, I'm going to really apologise because this needs to be changed. This is what it used to look like, and I should have stayed on the shared screen, shouldn't I really? And I'm going to talk you through our website, definitely, because it's really important that you, let me concentrate. Ding, ding, ding. Right, if we look at our careers website, we revamped it all. Can everyone see the careers screen? I'm hoping. Great, great. I'll move back now. So this is our careers website. We revamped it. I'm still not sure about the blue, but that's the uni that's done that. But we've got some really useful resources on here. The How We Can Help section. If you click on that, you can see how we can help you by year group, but also by department. There's loads of really useful resources. We've got a law week coming up, for example. So if you wanted to have a look at the law information that we've got on there, some fantastic stuff. Making applications. This is where you can find out everything about CVs and covering letters. There's a recorded webinar of basically what I'm doing now. Let me just quickly go to the How We Can Help and I'll explain there. So help by subject, you know, I'm just going to pick on law. Geography, let's pick on geography. Loads of really good stuff on there that you may or may not be aware of. Options with a degree, lots of really useful links on there, and volunteering opportunities relating to geography. So that is really worth looking at. So that's great. It may be you might have to apply do some psychometric tests. So it's really important that you sorry, I've gone to the wrong section. Developing skills and experience, we've got something called Graduates First, where you can practice your recruitment tests, those horrible numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning sorts of tests and things. So, you know, really useful resource that we've got there. Absolutely follow us on Twitter. There's so much that we advertise on Twitter that you might miss. You know, for example, this Law Employability Week that we've got coming up. Events. You know, next week I'm doing a PGC workshop. We had LinkedIn this week. There's a volunteering from home event coming up. So be aware of all the sorts of things that we do. Our careers vacancy portal, that's where all the vacancies are, ranging from part-time jobs to volunteering to graduate jobs as well. This is the Ask a Question facility, which a lot of people make use of, where they'll send us their CVs, they'll send you know, their questions to us, and also on booking an appointment is really useful as well if you wanted to book an online appointment with a careers advisor or a volunteering advisor. Right, so let's get back to. I think that's more or less it now. So let's have a look now at the last slide, which really is just to say, I have to keep scrolling down, here we go, to thank you for participating really. I'm going to now have a look at the chat, if that's okay, and we'll work through the questions possibly, okay? So, there's probably so much there. Let's have, oh no, just lots of highs, right. Does it matter? I'll come back on the screen as well. There we go. Let me see, share video. There we go. To see you all. There we go. Right. Does it matter if you left school 96? Do you still include it? Again, Rebecca, I sort of did answer that really. And some, yeah, you know, I think we don't want hundreds and hundreds of qualifications or all the certificates you've got, but definitely put in your main qualifications really. And again, we can talk to you about that on a one-to-one. Absolutely. And absolutely, Patricia, I did answer that, didn't I? To do a different CV for each employer. Yes, Sean, absolutely. I'm going to be sending you the links to this PowerPoint. It'll probably take me till the end of today, or you might get it early next week, but absolutely, you'll get all of these links, absolutely. And can you have to must on your CV? Can you ask me what you mean there? Can you have too much on your CV? Sure, well, I mean, if you squeeze as much as you can into two sides, but remember that it's the relevant is the word that we're looking for here. Absolutely, you need to make sure it's targeted to the job. So I can't imagine that everything that you've done in your life to date will be relevant. So that is the most important thing. And again, Sean, send it to us via Ask a Question. Hopefully your masterpiece after you've listened to me, but you know, send it to us and we can make comments. Okay, Patricia, can I help?
Yeah, hi Claire.
Go on, hi Patricia, fire away.
See what it is for our peers. I'm doing this as well, obviously, because I want a CV for keep on me in my file. But we've got to do this for our personal development portfolio.
Okay.
So am I just doing that as I'm doing to general, as a general one, because I'm not obviously doing a CV?
Right, I mean, I know we have this, sometimes people send their CVs in and then they're being assessed, and we can't really, if they're being assessed, we're not really supposed to help, but we'll obviously send all our links and tell you, you know, where to look. You can watch a recorded version. There is no such thing as a general CV, but you're going to have to try. I mean, you know what I would do? I would actually find a person spec for a role that you're particularly interested in the future, and I would actually attach that to your assignment and say, look, this is what I have geared my CV to.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay,
that's what I do. So being clever about it, and maybe teaching the tutor as well that there is no such thing as a general CV.
I see.
And it's got to be targeted. And as I said, it is very subjective. So the amount of times people have argued with me and said, oh, well, my friend says this, or my dad who's head of HR says it should be like this. Yeah, you know, it's up to you. It really is. But the secret is gearing it, is you know, obviously following the rules and making sure it's no more than two sides. One side, if you can, you know, that they tend to be quite rare, but it is targeting it to the employer and using, you know, making it as effective as it possibly can be, using those action verbs, being as concise as possible, not being whiffly-waffly. You know, if you're going to do a skills base, then you're going to have to back it up with evidence.
Yeah, see, I haven't got no evidence for the skills because obviously it's just for the personal portrait. So what I'll do is I'll just do a CV as though I'm applying for a job in the field that I'm doing now.
That's right, Patricia, and it will help you in the long run anyway, won't it? So I think that's what I would do, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Patricia.
Thank you.
Right, so it's okay. Right, Rebecca, yes, you can book a one-on-one via the careers page under the booking appointment section. Would that be on the EHU Careers website? Yes, and that's a Vic here as well. Absolutely, go to book an appointment. It was above the Ask a Question facility, the tab on the right-hand side. So it's edgehill.ac.uk/careers. And book an appointment that way. Now you can book appointments with careers advisors, with volunteering advisors, with a part-time jobs person as well. They tend to be, a careers advisory appointment would tend to be half an hour. If you can, try not to attach a CV to it, because we don't always have time to look at the CV prior to the appointment, especially if it's booked overnight. Send your CV, really, probably Ask a Question would be the best place to send it to. But if you want a one-on-one careers appointment to discuss other things, absolutely. You know, it's important, you know, and the earlier the better, really, because there's so much on our website that people actually don't know about, and you'd be amazed how many final year students go, oh, I didn't know you did that, or I didn't know that event was taking place. You know, Twitter is really good, so follow us on Twitter, definitely. Will they be able to access my personal statement from us? Right, Chelsea, what I would do in the first instance, and I could talk to you right now about where to look, we have on our website, there's a section on personal statements, and, Find a Masters is a great website to look at, so is Prospects. There is a real knack to writing a personal statement. Send it, Chelsea, do you want to come on live and we'll have a quick chat now? Have you actually written one yet?
Yeah, so I've drafted one out today. So okay. I just wanted to kind of like discuss it.
Okay, well, Chelsea, that's fine. Book in. We're really chocker today because there's only me and Joe in because people are on half term, and the questions are piling up. But send it to us. We've got normally a 5-day turnaround. There is a real knack to writing it. You've got to personalise. Unlike your UCAS statement, you've got to personalise your personal statement to the uni. Yeah. And there are ways of doing that. You might have gone on an open day. You can perhaps research the tutors and the ways of doing that to find out their areas of study. They want to know career aim. They want to know specifically what skills you've gained at undergrad level that will help you at postgrad level. So things like critical analysis, that type of thing. But have a look. Find a Masters has got a good will show you how to write a statement. So do prospects.ac.uk. We've got stuff on our website as well. But absolutely send it to us, but not in PDF format, okay?
Okay, I've got an appointment for today. Should I cancel that? Would it be better?
Chelsea, is that with me? What time is that? It could be with Joe. Oh, what time is it?
I'll just double check. I think it's 2:30.
Oh, right. Well, I know that someone cancelled my 2:30, so either you've managed, did you book it today?
Yeah, literally just before.
Oh, well, that's right. Then you probably booked in that. You're welcome, Emily. Thank you. Chelsea, you probably, just, it's up to you. It's up to you. I can talk you through it, but it might be better because you get half an hour per question, you see. We look at the statement. If it's not well structured, we'll probably just say, go and look up, Find a Masters and all of that. But yeah, we can give one-on-one, no problem. It's up to you, Chelsea. You decide what you want, and I might see you later, I might not.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. How is everyone? Are there any other questions? You're welcome, Jenny and Emily. Are there any other questions? You're very welcome. Well, thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Ellen.
No, I'm fine. Thanks, Claire.
Oh, you're welcome. Good. And you know where we are if you need any help.